So today we are diving deep into a single but, well, an incredibly potent document. It's not some sprawling multi-volume text. It's actually a condensed prayer that acts as a kind of comprehensive step-by-step roadmap to awakening. This text, it's rooted really firmly in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, and it's known for capturing the essence of the Lam-Rim, the stages of the path to enlightenment.
That's exactly right. Our source for this deep dive is this beautifully structured prayer composed by Vajradhara Losang Jinpa. And to give a bit of context, he's a figure who is just revered in the Gelug tradition for his ability to synthesize these vast, really intricate teachings, you know, the ones laid out by masters like Atisha and Tsongkhapa, and boil them down into a concise practice text.
So this prayer isn't just a list of theological ideas. It's more like an architectural blueprint for consciousness itself. Is that a fair way to put it?
It is. It moves the practitioner through the entire process, and it's structured around the motivations of what are called the three capable beings.
Right. And our mission today is to go beyond just, listing the stages.
Yeah.
We want to understand the profound logical progression here. Why is devotion the necessary bedrock? What's the psychological tipping point that drives the mind to leap from seeking, say, temporary happiness to universal salvation? It feels like a shortcut to understanding the internal structure of spiritual development.
And the text assures us that this exercise has a profound, even an immediate benefit. For us, just analyzing it, mindfully reciting or contemplating this structure is said to leave a powerful positive imprint in the mind.
A positive imprint. What does that actually mean?
Well, it's not just a good feeling. It's seen as the seed for actualizing all the sophisticated, complex realizations that you need for full enlightenment. It's a direct method, a guide for achieving that ultimate goal for the benefit of all beings. And, crucially, as quickly as possible.
That idea of leaving a positive imprint is really remarkable. It suggests that just understanding and holding the clear sequence of the path, the Lam-Rim in your mind, is already a fundamental act of practice. We're tracing a very precise, systematic journey. It starts with this fundamental reliance on a guide, moves through personal responsibility and universal compassion, and then it culminates in the swiftest possible realization, the secret mantra, Vajrayana. Okay, so let's unpack this foundation. The very first step, before any moral or philosophical training, is devotion. The path begins not with thinking about things, but with this relationship of correctly devoting to the spiritual friend, the guru. If the goal is so vast, why is this relationship the absolute non-negotiable starting point?
Because the path to enlightenment is what's called a transmitted knowledge. It's a state of realization that, well, you can't get there just by reading books or through intellectual effort alone. It requires experiential guidance. The text places the guru in an extraordinarily exalted position. They are the nature that embodies all the Buddhas. Yes, they are understood to be the direct, untainted source of all the pure transmission and realization dharma. Without receiving the lineage and the instructions from this pure source, the realizations just can't reliably take root.
That dramatically elevates the role far beyond, a mere academic mentor or a professor. If they embody all the Buddhas, and they're described as the principal amongst all the Arya Sangha.
Right, the noble assembly.
Which, for our listeners, refers to that noble assembly, the realized spiritual community. Then devotion isn't just respect. It's recognizing the ultimate source of spiritual wisdom and power, but in a physical, accessible form.
Precisely. And this initial act of reliance, it gets formalized through taking refuge. And the refuge taken here isn't some vague general prayer. It's very specific. I take refuge in all magnificent, pure gurus. And the blessing you request at this opening stage reflects the whole path we're about to explore.
What's the request?
The request is that the mind becomes Dharma, that Dharma becomes the path, and that the path is free of all hindrances. This single comprehensive request, it just encapsulates the entire transition from an ordinary, deluded state to a fully awakened one.
That sounds like an incredibly intense level of reliance.
Yeah.
What kind of commitment is required here? The source offers these historical models, right? It points to the Bodhisattvas, Sudhana, and Sataprodita. Can we look closer at their examples? What do they teach us about this idea of pure devotion?
Well, their stories illustrate a devotion that is just unwavering, profound, and very active. It spans years and great distances. Take Sudhana, for example. In the Avatamsaka Sutra, he goes on this epic journey seeking truth, and he meets 53 spiritual teachers, or Kalyanamitras. His devotion is shown through his relentless travel and his complete openness to the teaching of each master, no matter what they looked like or what their methods were. He models the attitude of seeing the realization in every single teacher.
Okay, so he's the model of openness. What about Sataprodita?
Satapardita, on the other hand, models perseverance. Perseverance despite immense difficulty, both internal and external. He's seeking out the perfect wisdom of emptiness with a total disregard for his own comfort or even his physical safety. He's all in.
So their examples show that devotion isn't just passive agreement. It's a profound, active engagement, which brings us to the core requirements the text sets out for the practitioner.
Right, there are three core requirements. First, practicing pure devotion in thought and action. Second, seeing all the actions of the guru as excellent, recognizing that an enlightened being operates from a liberated, unconventional perspective. And third, fulfilling whatever the guru advises. This is a commitment to actively embody the instructions you're given, because you view the guide as the direct link to genuine realization.
I want to challenge that a little. That second requirement, seeing all the actions of the guru as excellent. That seems incredibly difficult, maybe even problematic in a modern context where we value critical thinking so much. How does the tradition square that intense requirement with maintaining your own personal integrity and, intellectual honesty on the path?
That's an essential question, and the tradition does address it by defining the scope and context. This reliance is based on the qualities of the teacher, not blind faith. Before you even establish this level of devotion, the text implicitly requires you to fully examine the teacher's qualifications, their realization, their ethical purity, their mastery of the Dharma.
Okay, so you do your homework first.
A lot of homework. Once that pure relationship is established, the instruction to view actions as excellent becomes a specific meditative technique. It's designed to prevent your own narrow, conditioned, dualistic mind from interfering with the transmission of advanced realization. Think of it this way. If you, the student, view the teacher's actions as ordinary or flawed, then your own realization will remain ordinary and flawed. It's a tool for transforming perception, not an instruction for blind obedience.
That nuance is crucial. So it's the discipline of perception. It's designed to bypass the ego's tendency to judge and obstruct everything. And only once that foundation of profound trust and this perceptual discipline is in place can the actual work of the graduated path, the Lam-Rim, begin.
Absolutely. Once that reliance is there, the practitioner moves into the motivation of the lower capable being. And this stage is intensely personal and pragmatic. It's all about realizing the urgency of your current existence. The focus is squarely on creating favorable circumstances for future practice, not on achieving liberation itself just yet.
The text focuses immediately on the preciousness of a human rebirth. It says we need to recognize that this current life, which it calls a highly meaningful, perfect human rebirth, is incredibly difficult to obtain and, critically, very easily lost. This is the first essential mechanism for generating that initial urgency, isn't it? It's the wake-up call.
It is the foundational shock, and the contemplation isn't just philosophical, it's an inventory. You're meant to list all the opportunities present in this life. The lack of extreme suffering, the opportunity to encounter the teachings, the ability to practice, the mental clarity. This combination is described as being as rare as finding a diamond in a pile of rubble, and the realization of its fragility, that this meaningful opportunity could vanish in an instant. That's the catalyst. If you don't seize this rare chance now, you risk falling back into states where spiritual growth is much, much harder, maybe even impossible, because of overwhelming pain or just a lack of opportunity.
Okay, so after that realization of fragility, the next step is developing a moral compass. The text immediately brings in the profundity of cause and effect, of karma. Why does understanding the depth of karma have to happen right after realizing how precious life is?
Because if life is precious and fleeting, you have to ensure your actions during that short window create only a positive trajectory. Realizing karma is understanding that actions, whether mental or physical, they aren't random. They will inevitably ripen into corresponding experiences. And the profundity lies in the principle that tiny causes can lead to massive effects across lifetimes, and that every experience we have now is the ripe fruit of a previous intention. This contemplation teaches you a meticulous responsibility for your thoughts and actions. It ensures this precious life isn't wasted on actions that lead to more suffering.
And what really solidifies this initial sort of fear-driven motivation, it's the contemplation of the unbearable sufferings of the lower realms. This isn't just a vague threat, it's an effective motivation, a deep fear of the specific consequences of severe negativity.
Exactly. This contemplation is essential because it provides let's call it the spiritual pressure gauge needed to turn the mind completely away from destructive habits. It makes the alternative, the consequences of ignoring your moral compass and accumulating negativity, so real and so overwhelming that immediate ethical action becomes the only rational choice. This fear acts as a powerful deterrent, and it forces the heart to take genuine refuge.
So the action of the lower capable being is the practice that comes out of this urgency and fear. What does that look like on a practical level?
It leads to heartfelt refuge in the three precious sublime ones: the Buddha, who shows the path; the Dharma, the path itself; and the Sangha, those who help you travel the path. The practice becomes a clear commitment. Abandon negativity and practice virtue in accordance with the Dharma. It's a process of purification, ethical realignment, and dedicating your energy only to virtuous actions based on that recognition of karmic law and life's fragility.
And what's the immediate intended result of mastering this stage? The text says it's the attainment of only the higher rebirths of humans and gods. Now that sounds like a pretty excellent result, but the text is explicit in framing it as a limited one.
It is the ultimate goal of the lower capable being. It guarantees a favorable future existence, a state of higher rebirth where you have the leisure and opportunity to continue the path. But here is the critical limitation, the flaw that drives the next stage. This attainment only addresses future circumstances. It provides temporary comfort, but it doesn't address the root problem of suffering itself.
Which perfectly sets the pivot point for the second stage of realization, the quest for ultimate freedom. So we established that the practice of the lower capable being leads to fantastic immediate results, higher rebirths. But the text immediately performs this deep analysis of why that's ultimately not enough. It prompts the transition to the middle capable being's motivation. Where exactly is the fatal loophole in just seeking a higher rebirth?
The loophole is that the practitioner, even if they achieve the state of a god, has not abandoned afflictions. The fundamental mental causes of suffering, the root delusions like ignorance, attachment, hatred, they're still firmly embedded in the mind stream. Think of it like this. The karma they accumulated was like paying off a temporary debt, but the factory that produces the debt, the factory of delusion, is still running at full steam inside their mind.
So if those roots of ignorance and attachment are still there, the consequence is inevitable. One still has to experience uninterrupted, limitless cyclic existence, samsara. The higher rebirths were just a lovely but extremely short vacation.
That is the pivotal, terrifying realization. If you haven't uprooted the causes, you are doomed to endlessly wander the six realms. The word limitless here signifies that there's no natural endpoint for suffering as long as those afflictions remain. It means that any happiness you experience, no matter how intense or how long it lasts, is ultimately temporary and will eventually give way to profound misery again. This understanding connects the dots. It provides the powerful motivation needed to transcend the limited scope of just seeking a pleasant future life.
This realization now fuels the core practice of the middle capable being. The goal isn't favorable circumstance anymore, it's genuine escape. The necessity becomes clear. You have to stop seeking temporary comfort and start contemplating well how cyclic existence works. The text says this contemplation should fuel action day and night. How does this shift the practitioner's view of reality?
Well, this contemplation forces the practitioner to recognize the fundamental nature of dukkha, or suffering, that's inherent in every realm of existence. We're asked to see that even the most sublime states of pleasure or meditative absorption are characterized by three types of suffering.
Can we break those three types down? Because I think often when people hear suffering, they only think of, physical pain.
Of course. The first is the suffering of suffering, or manifest suffering. This is the obvious stuff. Illness, injury, grief, emotional distress. Even animals understand this suffering and try to avoid it.
Right.
The second is the suffering of change. This is far more subtle. It refers to temporary pleasures, the joy of eating a fantastic meal, the bliss of perfect vacation, the comfort of wealth. All of these are a form of suffering because they're impermanent. As soon as that pleasure stops or changes, it transforms into disappointment or pain. We are constantly chasing new sources of pleasure because the old ones inevitably fade and become neutral or even negative.
And the third type?
The third, and the most subtle and pervasive, is the all-pervasive suffering of conditioning. This is the state of just having a body and mind under the influence of karma and delusion. Even when we're comfortable and free from overt pain, the potential for suffering is inherent in our conditioned state. It's the underlying mechanism of being subject to uncontrollable rebirth. It's like being locked in a prison cell, even if it happens to be a comfortable cell at the moment. Recognizing this third type is what generates true renunciation.
That deep realization that every single experience in samsara is fundamentally tainted by conditioning and change. That must generate a powerful feeling of renunciation.
Renunciation, yes, and it's vital to define that word correctly in this context. It's not about giving up on life. It's about giving up on the bondage to this conditioned existence. It's the profound, irreversible wish to be free from the cycle of suffering and its causes. And that leads the practitioner to seek the principal path to liberation, which the text identifies as the three precious higher trainings.
These three trainings are the essential methods for attaining self-liberation. They provide the practical means to dismantle those root afflictions. Can you elaborate on how these three work together?
They are inseparable and they are sequential. They are typically identified as the trainings in higher morality, higher concentration, and higher wisdom.
Okay.
Higher morality is the indispensable starting point. It requires ethical discipline to tame your bodily and verbal actions. And this isn't just about being a good person. It's about establishing a stable, non-harming foundation that stops you from accumulating negative karma, ensuring the mind isn't constantly agitated by regret or conflict.
Yeah.
It creates the ethical infrastructure you need for deep practice.
And once that's stable.
Once morality is stable, the practitioner moves to higher concentration or stabilization. This practice is about developing single-pointed focus, stabilizing the mind so it can remain without distraction on a chosen object. Without this mental stability, the higher realizations are just impossible to sustain. It's like trying to see the bottom of a lake while the water is choppy. You have to create a perfectly clear, still body of water.
And the final piece is wisdom.
Crucially, yes. The third training is higher wisdom. This is the wisdom that realizes the ultimate nature of phenomena emptiness. This wisdom is the only antidote capable of abandoning those root afflictions we talked about earlier, specifically the fundamental ignorance that drives samsara. Morality and concentration, they tame the symptoms, but wisdom uproots the cause.
So the practitioner dedicates themselves entirely to these three methods. They're seeking to eradicate the causes of bondage from their mind stream through the power of wisdom, combined with mental stability and ethical conduct.
And the result of achieving mastery at this stage is the profound attainment of only self-liberation, nirvana. This is the definitive cessation of suffering and its causes. It's an extraordinary accomplishment, freedom from cyclic existence forever. The middle capable being has successfully exited the endless loop.
But, just like before, this accomplishment immediately presents a new limitation, which sets the stage for what the text calls the Great Turn. This is where the structure of the Lam-Rim performs its most radical pivot. We've achieved nirvana, self-liberation, the ultimate goal for the individual, yet the path demands we continue. The text immediately points out the limitation. It still only results in self-liberation. Why is nirvana, this ultimate personal freedom, still considered a lower happiness, something you have to turn away from?
It's a profound ethical challenge. The moment a practitioner achieves that freedom, they look back and realize that while their own suffering is over, all other beings, every single creature in the six realms, remain trapped in that limitless, uninterrupted, cyclic existence. Nirvana is a state of deep peace, yes, but it is achieved at the expense of remaining actively engaged in the world. For the highest practitioner, liberation that excludes others is morally insufficient. It's, in effect, a subtle form of spiritual solipsism.
So this realization requires a radical motivational shift, moving from intense self-focused renunciation to universal altruism to compassion. And the foundational thought that shifts the entire trajectory of the practice is the mother-father recognition.
It is the deepest possible realization of universal kinship. This stage begins with a powerful immersive meditation on past lives, which leads to the recognition that there is not one sentient being in all the six realms who has not been one's mother or father. And this isn't just a metaphor, it's meant to be a deep experiential understanding that over countless rebirths, every single being has served as our closest, most loving relative.
That profound recognition of universal parenthood, that profound connection, that changes everything. It mandates a crucial shift in focus, forcing the practitioner to turn away from this lower happiness, the peace of their own liberation, and generate the wish to fulfill their ultimate purposes. Their purpose instantly becomes radically other-focused.
It has to. If you see every being as having been your most loving parent, and now they are suffering intensely in the various realms, that generates an extraordinary and unbearable compassion. This compassion demands an effort far greater than seeking personal liberation. It requires the practitioner to aim for the state of a fully enlightened Buddha, because only that omniscient state is truly capable of fulfilling the ultimate purpose and alleviating the suffering of every single sentient being completely.
And the specific meditative practice mentioned in the text for bridging that gap, for moving from just recognizing kinship to active selfless altruism, is the method for generating bodhicitta.
The key technique mentioned here is contemplating the path of equalizing and exchanging self for others. This is perhaps the most revolutionary ethical practice in the entire path. Equalizing means first realizing that all beings equally desire happiness and equally wish to avoid suffering. It puts all beings on the same plane as yourself.
And exchange it.
Exchanging self for others is the radical psychological action of Tonglen taking on the suffering and causes of suffering of others and giving away one's own happiness, virtue, and merit to them. This practice actively dismantles the self-cherishing thought, that deeply ingrained egoism that maintains our limited perspective, and replaces it with the mind of universal responsibility.
It's the ethical engine that allows the mind to truly generate the precious bodhicitta, the mind intent on awakening for the sake of others. So bodhicitta is a specific, irreversible, and most powerful commitment to attain Buddhahood solely to benefit all beings. This altruistic intention is what fundamentally defines the identity of the higher capable being.
And once that intention, that bodhicitta, is generated, action follows naturally. This commitment defines the path of the bodhisattva, the commitment to engage in the bodhisattva's actions of the six perfections.
The six perfections. They're the practical, systematic application of this altruism. They're the methods a bodhisattva uses to traverse the long and arduous path to full enlightenment. The text names them collectively, but we need to understand how they function together as an integrated system.
Right. The six perfections are generosity, ethical discipline, patience, joyous effort or perseverance, meditative concentration, and wisdom. They are not a random list of virtues. They're the full spectrum of practice designed to perfect the mind and body for Buddhahood. They transform obstacles into fuel.
Let's walk through them.
Generosity is the initial practice. It addresses material and mental attachment by giving what one has. Ethical discipline ensures all your actions remain beneficial and non-harming, protecting the bodhisattva from creating obstacles for themselves or others. And patience is crucial. It fortifies the mind against anger, retaliation, and difficulty, allowing the bodhisattva to endure the trials of helping countless sentient beings without becoming discouraged.
And how do patience and effort connect? It seems like they would have to.
They absolutely do. Patience enables joyous effort. If you lack patience, difficulties just lead to anger or burnout. Joyous effort is the enthusiastic, relentless progress you maintain throughout the entire, seemingly endless path. It maintains momentum. Then meditative concentration develops the mental power and stability required to focus on deep practice for long periods, bringing the mind under total control.
And it all culminates with wisdom again.
Exactly. Finally, we return to wisdom. But here, the wisdom realizing emptiness is combined with universal compassion. Unlike the middle capable being who uses wisdom for self-liberation, the higher capable being uses wisdom to understand the ultimate reality of all phenomena and the precise, skillful methods required to guide every other being to that same reality. The six perfections work in concert, with wisdom being the guiding principle that prevents the other five from being merely mundane virtues.
So mastering the six perfections is what turns a practitioner into a true bodhisattva, committed to traversing vast eons, enduring immense hardship until every single being is free. This dedication is the highest form of the conventional path. But even this vast timeline is challenged by the final section of the prayer. The structure is now complete on the conventional level. We have the three stages: devotion, renunciation, and bodhicitta, which encompasses the common path. Yet the text introduces an accelerated path, the secret mantra Vajrayana. This suggests that even the infinite timeline of the bodhisattva path is somehow insufficient.
That's the key insight here. This ultimate stage requires a very specific prerequisite. The practitioner must have trained like this in the common path. You cannot just jump to Vajrayana without having fully stabilized devotion, genuine renunciation, and especially deep, unwavering bodhicitta. Vajrayana is the express lane, but you absolutely must have completed the prerequisite courses first.
And there's a profound paradox here about suffering, isn't there? The text says the practitioner must not have aversion to experiencing the sufferings of cyclic existence for a long time, if necessary. This shows their total commitment to the welfare of others, no matter the timeline.
That willingness to endure eons of suffering for others is the ultimate metric of their compassion. It proves it's real. However, It is precisely this intensity, by the force of extraordinary, unbearable compassion for sentient beings, that the drive for speed arises. Because the suffering of others is so vast and so immediate, the practitioner cannot tolerate waiting countless lifetimes. The goal has to be achieved instantly to maximize the benefit.
So the goal shifts from "I'll achieve Buddhahood eventually when all beings are saved" to "I must achieve Buddhahood now to lead them because their suffering is unbearable." And this immense urgency is the only driver that justifies entering the quick path of the Vajrayana. What makes Vajrayana so quick? What's the mechanism of acceleration?
Vajrayana, or the diamond vehicle, it uses extremely powerful methods that engage the entire being, body, speech, and mind in a single moment. While the conventional path works to sort of negate ordinary appearance and identity, Vajrayana works to transform them. Instead of gradually accumulating wisdom over eons, it utilizes visualization and meditative identity.
How does that work in practice?
For instance, through specific practices involving mandalas and deities, the practitioner meditates on themselves as already being a fully enlightened Buddha. They visualize their environment as the Pure Land and their actions as the activities of an enlightened being. By consciously taking the result Buddhahood as the path, they compress the vast causal path into a much, much shorter time frame.
So this isn't just wishful thinking then. It's a method of identity transformation. It harnesses the mind's imaginative power and links it to the subtle energy systems of the body, which are often used in highest yoga tantra.
Precisely. It utilizes the subtle body, the channels, winds, and drops, as a powerful, fast engine for realization. Since the mind is said to ride on the internal winds, learning to control those winds allows the practitioner to swiftly access subtle states of consciousness that are incredibly conducive to realizing emptiness. This level of practice dramatically reduces the time required to attain the unified state. But, and this is the key, it requires a perfectly stable moral and compassionate foundation first.
The text really underscores the seriousness by focusing on the strict requirements of Vajrayana. The necessity of observing purely my vows and pledges even at the cost of my life is a dramatic statement. These specific commitments are known as Samayas. Why are they so rigorous?
They're rigorous precisely because the methods are so potent. If you're handling a high-voltage current, the risk of mismanaging it is severe. The Samayas are the guidelines that ensure the practitioner's mind remains pure and focused while engaging in these powerful transformative practices. They often involve commitments to the spiritual master, to other practitioners, to the deity practice itself, and to maintaining the pure view.
So breaking them would have serious consequences.
Very serious. Failure to maintain these commitments can severely damage the practitioner's mind stream because the practices accelerate both negative and positive results. Therefore, the commitment to observe them purely, even at the cost of one's life, is the recognition that maintaining the purity of the mind and the path is the absolute priority above all else, even above physical existence. It shows the level of seriousness and integrity required for the accelerated path.
The practitioners dedicating their entire continuum of being to the purity of the practice and the goal of helping others, using the ultimate methods available.
And this commitment leads directly to the ultimate attainment, the final goal requested in the prayer. The practitioner requests the blessing to quickly attain the unified state of Vajradhara in one brief lifetime of this degenerate age.
The unified state of Vajradhara, that's synonymous with full, perfect Buddhahood, achieved through the swift, precise methods of highest yoga tantra. And to achieve that in one brief lifetime is the ultimate accelerated timeline. It's a testament to the power of the path when it's fueled by this unparalleled compassion.
And the mention of degenerate age is significant. It implies a time when distractions are immense, opportunities are fewer, and human lifespans are short. To achieve the unified state of Vajradhara, the perfect union of wisdom and compassion under such circumstances requires extraordinary effort and the most powerful methods available, which the text affirms Vajrayana provides. It transforms the obstacles of a challenging era into the very fuel for the rapid path.
It's a compelling synthesis. The common path establishes the moral architecture, and the uncommon path provides the technological acceleration. This deep dive has revealed the sheer elegance and logical necessity embedded in the Lam-Rim structure as it's captured in Vajradhara Losang Jinpa's prayer. It really isn't a random collection of virtues. It's a meticulously ordered sequence of psychological and ethical transitions.
We saw how the path begins with reliance on the spiritual friend, recognizing them as the source of transmission and realization. This foundational trust allows the practitioner to move into the motivation of the lower capable being, where the realization of the preciousness and fragility of human life drives that initial urgency for basic ethical conduct and safety through karma.
That basic safety, we discovered, is fundamentally flawed because the root afflictions are still active, guaranteeing a return to suffering. This recognition of the three types of suffering fuels the quest for genuine freedom renunciation, through the profound training in morality, concentration, and wisdom, which culminates in self-liberation.
Then the great turn occurs. The practitioner recognizes the universal kinship of all beings, driven by the mother-father recognition, realizing that personal liberation is insufficient. This generates the unique altruistic intention of Bodhicitta, which is then acted upon through the disciplined cultivation of the six perfections.
Finally, the extraordinary, unbearable compassion for suffering beings provides the spiritual impatience required to accelerate the timeline. And that leads to the strict, transformative path of Vajrayana, aiming for the unified state of Vajradhara in this very life. It is a systematic progression built upon graduated realizations, where each stage is logically necessary and logically necessitated by the limitations of the previous stage.
The entire journey is built on causality. You can't truly achieve deep renunciation without realizing the fragility of life and the intensity of karmic cause and effect. And critically, you can't generate true, vast Bodhicitta without first achieving genuine renunciation. You have to wish to be free yourself before you can sincerely dedicate yourself to freeing everyone else. It is a precise spiritual ladder where every rung has to be stable before you attempt the next one.
We began by discussing the profound power of just reciting this prayer, how it can leave a positive imprint in the mind, that simply articulating the stages can plant the seed for future awakening.
That realization should really make its pause. This path demands a total reorganization of one's purpose, moving from self-concern to personal freedom to universal responsibility.
So we leave you with this final provocative thought. If merely reciting the stages of the path can plant the seed for future awakening, what systematic, incremental steps in your own life, no matter how small, are you taking today to define and direct your ultimate purpose? Are you working only to ensure a pleasant temporary situation, or are you dedicating your efforts to a goal that transcends your individual existence, creating an indelible imprint for your future self and the people you share this world with?